The ransom is $50 million. Who do you think you kidnapped? Chelsea Clinton? Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking movies. This is episode 212, and I'm your host, the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Been an unintentional hiatus for our podcast for, I don't know, probably about three and a half weeks where we haven't got to talk movies with you guys, but we are glad to be back, and I am joined by the mad scientist, Brian Banner. So as we head into the lab, Banner, what is the report down there on how many trick-or-treaters you got this year, and were any of them scared away by your epic Halloween decorations?
No kids scared away. Did get a good haul on the trick-or-treating, though.
Yeah,
did get a good haul.
Roughly how many people you have?
Like, in our group? How many people we had? What are you talking about?
So, I mean, like, how many visitors did you have to your house? Or were you not home because you...
We were out trick-or-treating. We did not hand out candy.
Wow.
Yeah, we went out trick-or-treating, but we got a nice big bag full.
I guess I forgot how that works. Like, when you have a kid now and you start going trick-or-treating, you're never there to pass it out? Or do you stay for a little pass out and then leave?
No, we just shut the porch lights off and go about our day.
Wow.
Yeah, there'll be a transition, though.
I don't know, man. I feel like for the rest of your life, till your daughter's 51, she'll be trick-or-treating.
Maybe. Probably, actually.
I wish there was like an adult trick-or-treating that we could do that would be acceptable, where like you go around and everybody gives you like pocket shots or something.
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
Or, like,
let's invent that holiday.
I don't feel like it'd be hard to get people on board, right?
No, that's like the easiest holiday to indoctrinate.
So I'm like, why didn't you pitch this earlier? I've been like craving for this. It's like in old school when the guy at Mitch's work like needs the fraternity because he hates his life. He's like, been craving for someone to just ask me to do anything outside of work. All right, well, here on the Bro Force Squad podcast, we start every episode with the most important thing in every bro's life, and that is chest day. Our chest day topic today, it's hard to believe, Brian, but we have about 6 weeks left in the movie season and in 2023, another year that I just feel like has flown by. And at the end of each year, of course, we honor the best movies at the annual Broskers Awards that we have, which those nominations are looking pretty interesting as of now. We'll reveal the
pretty strong year, I think.
It is a strong year. At least there's no clear-cut winners, I don't think, in any of the categories. Except
I would
maybe,
agree with that.
But we'll debate that at another time. But Brian and I wanted to discuss the opposite of the best movies of the year today, and that would be the biggest turds that we saw this year. Specifically, the three worst movies that we have seen in 2023. So we obviously haven't seen every single movie, but I've seen, and I think you as well, a pretty nice mix of both movies that have been released on streaming and in theaters, to where when I put this list together, I felt like I had a complete enough view of the year that it was representative of most of the films we got. How do you feel about your list before we actually dive into it?
Yeah, I agree. I saw a lot of the summer films in theaters, and then in between, I've hit quite a few new streaming movies as well. And I put some honorable mentions on here just in case we had a few crossovers. And it looks like I have 1, 2 out of 6 movies. I got 3 in theaters and 3 on streaming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have 3 and 2 honorable mentions, and I think actually only one of mine are from theaters.
Nice.
Well, I like the movie theater films a little bit more than you this year, which is fine. All right, let's dive into it. Do a 3, 2, 1 countdown. 1 being the worst for me, right? 1 was the worst for you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll end with that. Brian, what is the 3rd worst movie you've seen this year? And then, of course, why? What made it so shitty?
So I mentioned this whenever I watched it, and that's 65. I fucking hated this movie. It's on my list a lot, probably more than it's a bad movie, but because of the potential it had and the missed opportunity. Spoilers if you haven't seen 65, but I think the idea that humans coming to Earth 65 million years ago and interacting with dinosaurs and then just fucking leaving, that's like boring as shit. It was slow. If you have a movie with spaceships and dinosaurs, it cannot be slow. And this was slow. The weird language barrier between Adam Driver's character and the little girl, um, it's just an unnecessary wrinkle, I think.
I don't want to upset you, but I gave this a nomination for Best Action Movie of the Year
Yeah,
in the
no,
process.
it will not be getting my vote.
Um, I know you're the dino head here, so your opinion obviously carries a lot of weight. I just thought for the first time in a while it was, and I know there's not many of these movies enough to even make it like a subgenre, but I thought it was an interesting take on how to get humans to interact with dinosaurs. And I do agree with your point. It's a little stupid to have them come here and then briefly leave. But I also think that if you really analyze it, and again, slight spoilers for the movie 65, but it's really only two humans interacting with dinosaurs because the rest of their ship die on impact. So it's not like we have like a full civilization here like cultivating and colonizing Earth, dealing with dinosaurs, which I think that might have been like, okay, this is just Jurassic Park. It was like one guy, and it's kind of weird too because it's like in the past but also futuristic, trying to survive, which I thought was kind of interesting. My one complaint with the movie is that I actually don't think it had enough dinosaurs. Like I think it was too much Adam Driver and the girl because you don't go to this movie for character development.
And the dinosaurs that they did have were great. The more that we've learned about dinosaurs, we obviously know that the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park are not realistic anymore. Mm-hmm. And as we got closer to the third Jurassic World, they did become a little bit more characteristic or more real, like what we think the dinosaurs look like. I thought this was a lot more authentic for the dinosaurs, so I will give it props there. This movie had so much more potential, in my opinion, and it just fell flat on its face.
I was very surprised pleasantly to see Adam Driver take a role like this.
Yeah. It's not something that I think he would traditionally take on, but
I mean, obviously he was in Star Wars, but he does a lot of like the Oscar bait stuff now. Like he's playing the guy Ferrari in a new movie. He obviously did what was
he did that one.
He did House of Gucci.
Yeah, he did that weird one on Netflix, White Noise.
White Noise, which I liked the first act, and then it really falls off.
Yeah, was that 2023? Because if it was, that should be on this list.
I looked it up, and I think even though it came out on Netflix in 2023, Letterboxd had it as a 2022 release because I think it did the festival circuit. Gotcha. But if you wanted to make an argument for it for this year, certainly you could.
No, we've got shittier movies. Don't worry.
But yeah, I thought this movie was interesting, but I definitely get your complaints about it. It's tough, man. Like, how do you make a dinosaur movie now where like people are actually intrigued by it? Because we sort of are like the actual park goers in like Jurassic World, where we're desensitized to dinosaurs now. So that's why I thought the one thing this did was it kind of had an interesting entry point. But it's tough to get people to see a dino movie now. We're like, oh, I haven't seen or thought of that before with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
All right, good entry.
What do you got for your third worst movie?
All right, so my number 3, I went on a kick for like, I am ashamed of this for about a month. I think sometime in like June, where I started watching a bunch of Lifetime original movies. And
nothing wrong with that.
They're very fun because I respect the hustle of the people making these, the people writing them, the people acting in them, and the people like filming, like directing and producing them, because they're made on shoestring budgets with very tight production schedules, and a lot of times they're just, the goal is not to make a good movie, but to make one to fill a content quota, and sometimes the worse they are, the more fun they are. That being said, I wasn't going to put more than one of these on my list just because I didn't think, number one, other people would have seen them, but also it's just not the point of this list, I don't think. But there was one that I mentioned on Pod a few months back that I had to put on here, and it is called Girl in the Closet.
Oh, yes. I remember talking about this.
Yeah, so it's a Lifetime original movie, of course, about a girl whose mother goes into it's based on a true story. Girl whose mother goes into a coma. The girl's about 8 years old. And she gets taken in by her estranged aunt. And she's essentially abducted into like slavery with her aunt and her husband, where she like lives in their basement, does their chores, and they basically go on the run from authorities and they're not able to find her. My 2 big issues with this movie. Number 1, it's the same scene, I think 4 or 5 times, where the girl, just at different ages in her life, is in the closet, attempts to escape the family, and in the basement, attempts to escape and gets caught. My other issue actually involves the title, Girl in the Closet. And Brian, this is where you will take issue with this. There is
If
no
she's never in
closet.
the closet, just stop there.
She's never in a closet.
I don't understand. Girl in a basement. It's not that hard.
There you go. She's in a basement the whole time. Why?
Not even in a closet in a basement.
No. No, she's in a very large basement. Never in a closet. The whole time I kept saying to myself, do they think this is a closet?
It's a big ass closet.
Well, then I started questioning myself. I'm like, do I know what a closet is? Because this is a fucking basement.
Gave you a complex, man.
You start to think you're the crazy one. The movie was gaslighting me. So, of all the Lifetime movies, it was bad, not in a fun way. And then, if we can't even get the title right, what are we doing?
Yeah, already off to a bad start.
Horrible start. All right, I promise that's the only Lifetime original movie on my list. Everything else people have probably heard of. They're more mainstream. Brian, what's your number 2 worst movie of 2023 so far?
Number 2, I think I actually mentioned this the last pod that I was on. The Netflix original We Have a Ghost with Anthony Mackie, David Harbour. This movie is an hour and 27 minutes long, and you feel every second of it.
Wow.
It didn't know if it wanted to be funny or scary or heartfelt or weird. It just didn't know what it wanted to be. The dialogue was like Star Wars prequel bad, but not in a fun way.
Which is weird because I know this is, like you said, tonally all over the place, but since it is a little bit steering into comedy, the bad dialogue didn't even play to its favor there.
No, it didn't. It didn't help it out, and I don't know if it was how it was delivered. This is the worst I've ever seen Anthony Mackie.
Wow.
You know me, I'm a huge Anthony Mackie fan.
I saw Twisted Metal this year, and he was pretty bad in that. So it's been kind of a rough year for him. He really needs Captain America 4 to come out soon.
Yeah, he's just mailing it in, getting a paycheck.
Well, that's the worst thing. I don't think he is mailing it in. I don't know. His charisma just kind of feels like they're forcing it on us.
Ugh.
And I like him. I think he's a cool guy, and I love how
I would totally go get some beers with him.
Absolutely. But man, it feels like he's not. Here's the issue with Anthony Mackie. He's kind of a tweener, right? We talk about a guy that's like not quite a guard, but he's also not quite a forward. He's not quite a comedic actor, but he's also not quite a dramatic actor.
I would say you can even argue he's like a B plus actor. Like he's not quite a mainstream, A-lister, but he's a little bit better than that B list also. You know what I mean?
Sure. I have to ask you a question about this movie. I had heard this either from another podcast I was on or maybe from you. David Harbour, does he speak in this film?
No.
So why cast David Harbour then?
He grunts a lot.
I mean, am I just totally missing the point here? Like,
no, you're not. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
That's like signing Shohei Ohtani and then having him bunt all the time. Like, use the guy's skills.
Wouldn't see it coming, that's for sure.
Does him, and this is a huge spoiler for people at home, don't say it, but does his character not talking have like a plot reason behind it?
Kinda. Honestly, it took me 4 sittings to get through this.
And it's an hour and a half. That's saying something. An hour and 27 minutes. And so I'm sure at a certain point, you and Brooke Banner were like, well, we're pot committed. We've watched too much of this.
Oh, yeah, of course. You know me, if I'm like 45% of the way in, I'm in it to win it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people to turn things off very often.
Yeah, sometimes it'll take me a few sittings, but I usually try and cut everything out.
Yeah.
Mainly just for this podcast to say I watched it. All right, well, that had popped up.
The bedpost, you know?
Yeah. Well, I will avoid We Have a Ghost then.
All right, what do you got?
All right, my number 2 worst movie is based on a book that my wife had read and was a big fan of. And the premise of this is actually really interesting, but this thing is a fucking turd, and I'll get into why. But it's called One True Loves, and it is an Amazon original movie that stars Luke Bracey, Simu Liu, who of course is Shang-Chi, and then Philippa Sue, who, let me look up who her actual character is, but she's in Hamilton.
Yep, she's Eliza, I believe.
She's Eliza. Eliza! I mean, she is a great actress. She's absolutely incredible. However, One True Loves does neither her nor Luke Bracey, who I don't think has an ounce of talent in his whole body, or Simu Liu any favors. Let me describe the plot to you, Banner, and you'll see why this is actually a pretty interesting premise. So, Philippa Sue's character is married to Luke Bracey. They're like a very adventurous couple. They travel the globe together. I actually think their uh, job is they have like a YouTube channel or like a travel blog where like they just
Okay.
visit places and then write or document their experiences.
Okay.
And Luke Bracey is actually a documentary filmmaker who gets a job. I believe it's somewhere up in like the Swiss Alps to make a movie. And while he's up there, he is involved in a some type of plane, or on his way there, involved in some type of plane crash, and he unfortunately passes away. And Simu Liu plays a childhood friend of Philippa Sue's character, and they reconnect after about 3 or 4 years of her grieving, and he proposes to her, and they're to be married. As they're engaged, though, she discovers that Luke Bracey, her first husband, has actually been discovered alive on a desert island.
Ah, the plot thickens.
Right, so he comes back, and then Simu Liu is... I think the thing that makes this movie so unique is he is not played as like the wicked, evil guy who's trying to take her away from him. He says, "I can't imagine how hard this is for you. Like, tell me what you need from me, and I respect whatever your choice is." And so the dilemma is, as the audience, like, well, who do we want her to end up with? You know?
So it's kind of like Castaway from
Helen Hunt's point of view.
Yeah, from Helen Hunt's point of view, not Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Where this movie falls absolutely flat on its face is, I don't normally notice this, it has some of the worst editing I have ever seen. Meaning, there will be a scene where like two people are in a conversation, and you will get whiplash. It will just cut to like a completely different place and location with one of those characters in like a totally different scene. Huh. Another thing that it does is it really poorly inserts music. Like, the mixing on it is really bad. Like, there's a scene where two characters are like on top of a water tower and they're about to kiss. And I think it's the "I don't want to wait for our lives to be over," which is poorly put in the movie, and it's like cranked up to 11. It doesn't even like slowly turn up the volume. So it's like, it feels like a movie that, even though the cast is really good and the premise is good, the script has some cringy dialogue, and it feels like it was filmed and edited by like a high school broadcast team.
Ooh. That's interesting. And usually Prime is pretty on top of that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to say Prime originals are the best movies out there and they're just pumping out great content, but everything is solid. It's not what we would consider Netflix trash. And what you're describing is kind of Netflix trash. Yeah,
and I think to Prime's credit, they do have a content quota like all these streamers do, but I don't feel like theirs is near as high as Netflix. Because the Netflix situation is, I almost feel like they'll greenlight pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Case in point, we have a Ghost.
Yes.
Because they're like, well, we have to put out 7 originals in October, so fuck it, just go with that one, and that'll be one of the 7. Prime, I feel like, is a little more prudent with what they greenlight, and this IP, again, based on the book, I actually think would work better, because I think it will give a little bit more legs to the decision that Philippa Sue's character has to make. Whereas in the movie, by the time we fall in love with all 3 of these characters, it just feels kind of like unjustified in the decision that she makes. But I think the book would play it better. I was disappointed in this one based on the cast and kind of the premise. And Amazon, I just feel like, really did not do a good job. I don't want to shit on who the director was. I didn't even look it up. But whatever. This is hopefully like one of their first films. Let me put it that way.
I'm not going to fault Amazon because they finally dropped season 2 of Invincible. So yeah. Or at least started to.
Yeah, they can redeem themselves there.
Yeah, they're fine.
All right, what's your number 1 worst movie of 2023? I say so far because even though we only have about 6 weeks left, I'm looking at December, and this might have to be one of our next episodes. There's a good chance that there could be a bigger turd out there in December than anything we've had on the top of our list so far.
Yeah, there definitely could be. I'm going with Avatar: The Way of Water. That was this year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think. Let me check.
Yeah. I just started thinking, I don't even know if this is this year. I just watched it this year. This movie is about 3 hours too long.
It was 2022, but I'm gonna count it anyway
All
because
right, we're gonna count it. We're just gonna say it sucks. That's how bad it was.
it was
We
so
didn't
long
need
that
this.
Brian started it in June and finished it in 2023.
Yes. I'll go. I can do another one though. I've got some
Well, I
honorable
want you to talk about
mentions.
Avatar first, and then we'll let you.
It's 3 hours too long. I mean, it's basically the first movie, but in water. Every significant character that we killed off in the first one, we're just gonna bring them back as a different character. Get the fuck out of here. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, when I saw the cast list for this, I was like, didn't like 4 of these people die in the first one?
Yep, they did, and they
Wait,
just brought them back. It's cool.
way to have stakes, bro.
Yeah. So it was just too long and awful, and I can't wait for 15 years later to get another one.
I gotta ask you, I haven't seen this movie yet. I'll watch it at some point, probably on a commentary because that's probably the best way to do it. Although
We are never doing a 3 hour, 27-minute commentary on this.
we did Titanic. What if we
did
do
Titanic?
where we tag each other in and out? Like people are allowed to take like an hour off and then come back in.
Yeah, if you take an hour off, you're still doing like a movie and a half.
It's true. But I just don't understand where, like James Cameron. I want to say Steven Spielberg. That'd be a big diss on him.
Yeah.
James Cameron obviously has like multiple sequels lined up for this. Like, why is this story so interesting to people? I just don't understand it. There's nothing really original about it.
No, I liked the first one. Again, I've been pretty vocal about this. A lot of that was because that was the first time we saw real 3D, which I don't even like 3D anymore, in the theaters, but it was very revolutionary, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. The movie is fine. It's fun. I enjoy it. I did not want another one. And this is terrible. And you know how much I love water and ocean, and this revolves all around that. And this was just a horrible, horrible piece of shit that apparently came out in 2022.
But before I let you reveal your alternate one for your number one worst movie, again, starting conspiracy theories around this film because I thought it was fake for the longest time. Meaning we kept hearing about it, and I was like, yeah, well, we're pushing the date back perpetually. I don't think it'll actually come out. I talk movies with a lot of my friends and just coworkers and people in my life. I don't know a single person who paid to see this in theaters, and that's not hyperbole. I really do not know anyone that saw this in theaters. Everyone that I know watched it either on streaming or pirated it, put it that way. So the fact that this broke the all-time box office record, I'm just a little bit skeptical on that being real.
I don't believe you.
Like, how many people do you know that actually paid to see this in theaters?
Not a single person.
It's 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe someone out there is like, well, one guy bought $5,000 worth of tickets every single day, like that. Okay, that I might believe more.
Yeah, there are psychos out there that would do that.
Yeah. All right, Banner, you want a mulligan? What's your other number one?
Mulligan, another one. Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken.
Yeah, I did not have high hopes for this one.
No, I didn't either. I didn't know voice acting could be as bad as this was. It just, like, there's weird inflections, and they weren't, like, they were just talking, but everything was a question.
Ew.
Yeah, it just didn't make any fucking sense. Lots of lights, lots of colors. Okay, that's fine. It was a cartoon. I get it. But, like, when my 5-year-old comes out of the movie and is confused, you know it's a bad movie.
Looks like we had Lana Condor from To All the Boys I've Loved Before was Ruby Gillman. Jane Fonda was Grandmama.
Yep. Not great.
Yeah. Interesting.
It just, the
Toni
story
Collette,
was
Agatha Gilman.
fucking boring. It was just terrible. If you've got kids, don't go see that one. Don't even, like, rent that one or see it for free on streaming. Don't do anything with it. Just stay away from it.
Who is this DreamWorks? God, their animation just looks like shit lately.
Yeah. Yeah. DreamWorks, yeah. I think they have Boss Baby, and aside from that, they are awful. Yeah. I guess they have the Shrek movies too, and all those spin-offs, but
that's rough, man.
Yeah.
So your daughter did not like this?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for it, and I was not, mainly just visually, I was like, that looks horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't awesome.
All right. Well, if you and Baby Banner didn't like it, I think that speaks volumes.
There we go. All right, what you got?
All right, my number one film, based partly on expectations, cast, and potential. It is a Netflix original, which maybe you've seen the trailer for. It's called Reptile, featuring Benicio del Toro and Justin Timberlake.
Haven't watched it yet, but was very intrigued.
Stay away. Stay
Ooh.
far away. This movie, it's a procedural, I would say, about a murder where a real estate agent who is working with Justin Timberlake and they're in a relationship gets killed at one of her open houses. And Benicio del Toro is a detective who is investigating the murder. Alicia Silverstone actually plays his wife. And she actually gives a pretty good and interesting performance in this. And it goes through, like a standard procedural would, the possible suspects, motives, and then any, twists and turns or wrinkles in the case that the police uncover along the way. The issue with this movie is that the first third of it sets up a lot of really interesting ideas and sort of a fun whodunit, kind of like a juicy murder mystery.
Okay.
And then it becomes like this really morose character piece on Benicio del Toro's character, who I don't even at the end of the movie understand like what the trauma or the problem is that he's facing. And the last 10 minutes, the movie says, "Oh, you know what? We forgot about that murder. Here's who did it." Happy?
The fuck?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's almost like an experimental film to like tweak with and sort of toy with like the typical thriller genre, but there's no thrills. And even though it looks good, Justin Timberlake is pretty bad in it. And Benicio del Toro is obviously a great actor, but I'll be honest with you, and like I'm not just referring to him in The Last Jedi. Most of the time when he's acting, like I don't have any idea what the fuck he's actually doing. Like
No, he does all these like weird like ticks almost.
yes. Oh my God, all the time. And he got out of control in The Last Jedi with those. In this one, he has like a few of them, but it's sort of like the Jared Leto thing where I'm like, and Nate Thurman complains about this all the time, and I love it, where it's like, if you think you're adding like interesting context or backstory to your character, all you're doing is confusing the fuck out of me, because I don't know why your character all of a sudden has a lisp, or why he is like an alcoholic in just this one scene, or why he talks about like his dead father who's not been mentioned at all in the movie. Like, I don't, they're just like all this stuff that he feels like he needs to add layers to his character, but really it's like this fog of confusion that he creates. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And maybe it helps him as part of his process, but it just really, to me, boggles my mind and like throws way too much shit on the movie that it doesn't need. And that happens a lot in this.
Gross.
And I'm not a big Justin Timberlake fan as an actor. I like him as a musician, but there's very few of his, like even in Social Network, I could do without him in that film.
Yeah, he is fine in
That's
that.
all. So I told Nate Thurman this because he was interested as well. The trailer looks great for this, but in good conscience, I thought it was pretty fucking awful. So much so that it's my worst movie of the year so far.
God, so disappointing.
Yeah. Now, again, part of that could be based on expectations, but I have to slot it in where I slot it in.
Gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Any honorable mentions? I just have two. I won't talk about
yes. First one, Murder Mystery 2. The first one, we caught lightning in a bottle. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. We didn't need this. This is whatever the polar opposite of lightning in a bottle is. There's just no room for it.
I kind of had fun with Murder Mystery 2.
No, get the fuck out of here.
I liked it. I thought it really kind of steered into what it was. Like
no, it was too much. The first one was enough. They I don't know. They were too excited about it all. It wasn't. Yeah, they weren't like the fish out of water. Like they were itching for it, which I guess maybe that was the point. It just, ugh.
That cheese in their hotel room was pretty funny.
Okay, I did laugh at that.
Everyone was like obsessed with. You gotta try this cheese.
The other one that I have, it just really it didn't quite deserve to be on the top three. So this is probably the best one out of them, all of them. But Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, it just wasn't good visually. I guess it was cool, kind of, but again, I just don't know that this movie knew what it wanted to be. It didn't really advance the MCU anything or its particular characters for me. It just was meh. Now, Jonathan Majors was great in it, but aside from that,
Is it sad that I'm at the point now with the MCU where, like, obviously I'm the MCU defender on here, but I almost just feel bad continually beating up on them because I'm like, my level of expectation has just gone down so much that it's like when I see a mediocre to bad MCU movie, I'm like, yeah, I mean, kind of expected that. Like, I'm seeing the Marvels this Friday, and I'm very excited for it, but if it sucks, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really surprised.
I can tell you it's going to suck.
Well, I already spoiled the coolest part of it, which is the post-credit scene for myself just by logging on onto YouTube, so don't worry about me.
Yeah, dude, that just sucks for you. You have had more shit spoiled for you.
It's at this point though. I mean, how can I avoid it? It's all around us.
Yeah.
But yeah, Quantum Mania. That was one that I thought because of Kang and the quantum realms impacted Endgame that it might take us some interesting places, but didn't really. Especially with the ending, I'm just like I don't understand. But that's kind of me the whole multiverse saga. Did you have another one or just
No, that was it.
All right, the two that I had, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I didn't even fucking watch it. Which hate
is saying something
Kingdom
for Banner to not watch an Indiana Jones movie. That speaks volumes.
If it comes on streaming somewhere, I'll probably check it out. But of course, it came out, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the same week as Haunted Mansion, and that was a dud too. So that was a pick your poison kind of a weekend.
Right. Yeah, with this one, James Mangold, obviously incredible director, did 3:10 to Yuma, did Logan. I was excited that he came back. As we've gone over them, and especially when we watch Temple of Doom, I have to say, and this is like maybe too hot of a take to really get into on this pod, but Banner, I think there is 1.5 good Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, I would lean towards 2. I'd set the line at 1.5.
Yeah. But if we're looking at it now, like 2 out of 5, that's pretty bad.
No, that's not good at all. And okay, so I'm just to make sure we're on the same page. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade are two good ones. Yes. Correct. Yeah. Next is Temple of Doom.
Right, which is not enjoyable. We just did a commentary on it. Yeah. Check it out.
It drags a lot.
And then I would put Dial of Destiny obviously ahead of Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull is a train wreck.
Don't even get me started. Like you said, that's a whole nother podcast. Me talking about how fucking horrible it is as she's swinging through the vines like a monkey, not getting eaten by ants.
And then Aliens. So, all right, let's say Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark are both good movies because I guess that's fair. Raiders of the Lost Ark is like almost a perfect film for me.
Yes,
so
I would agree.
Either way, 2 out of 5 are good. 1 is okay, and 1 is absolute dog shit, and then 1 is just pretty bad in Dial of Destiny. It's just a rough. The franchise is tainted at this point.
Yeah, and it's crazy that it's such a popular franchise with not a great track record. But that's just a testament to how good Raiders is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start with a, like you said, almost perfect movie, yeah, we'll make 5 of them. That's fine. Because we still have that one that's good.
Maybe indie heads out there liked Dial of Destiny. Again, it wasn't like absolutely horrendous, at least when you compare it to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But if it didn't have Indiana Jones on it, I don't think anything about this would have gotten me into theaters. And you can be like, well, yeah, but that's the fucking point of the movie. I agree. But this franchise, I think, is just so far past its heyday that it's kind of hard to watch.
Yeah.
One other one that I mentioned really briefly, I'm not sure if you saw this. It came out very beginning of the year. I know Geiger hated it. It was the ESPN 30 for 30 Bullies of Baltimore, about the 2000 Baltimore Ravens team.
I did not see this.
So what is really frustrating about this is because it is told at it's filmed in 2 parts. It has the reunion, the 20-year reunion of the Baltimore Ravens team from 2000, where they're all the main players are there on stage reminiscing about the Super Bowl season. And then it's also done through like flashback interviews and clips. And I think that the way, like the revisionist history, the way some of these players recount and tell the stories of that season, I just roll my eyes. I'm like, that's bullshit. That's not how it happened. I remember watching those games. And it's really frustrating that it basically becomes like, this is an interesting team, very interesting and a historical defense. But like the fluff piece in the way that this documentary is told, it's like they're just full of shit. They're lying about so many things. And it's really difficult to watch.
It's all about who produces them, man.
Yeah. Like they talk about Shannon Sharp, like he was this fucking all-pro tight end. He had 31 catches that year.
I had 31 catches that year.
Right. And that was a down year for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's frustrating to watch because like I remember that team saying how old I am, and it was not the way they describe it. It's just kind of annoying. All right, you got anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right, let's move on to the second part of our show, our protein shake, where we go around, talk about what's in our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. So I'll just say this off the top. Reptile, I just talked about it. Watch that. So I'll take that off my list. Banner, what's something you've seen lately, or what's in your cup?
So this one just dropped right at Halloween. We watched it over the past weekend. Five Nights at Freddy's on Peacock.
It's on my list too.
Oh, sweet. I liked it. I thought it was fun. Had some good moments. I thought the twist was interesting. I think a lot of people that have read the books are going to be interested in this a lot more than I was. I have not read the books for this. Probably will now that I know it is a book.
My students are obsessed with the games as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot for the other fans, you know.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I was entertained. It was a quick watch, maybe like hour and a half, hour 34 maybe. Yeah, it was good.
I will say I loved all the stuff at Freddy's. It's not even a subplot, man. It's like the plot about I can't remember the main character's name, Josh Hutchinson's character, about his like trauma and I won't spoil it, but like the event in his life that sort of led him down this path. I don't know if that's a part of the lore in the game or the books, but I was shocked at how much of the narrative was devoted to that. Like that's basically the movie. And there's a little bit of animatronics at Freddy's, which to me, I wanted this thing to be like much more of a cheesy, campy slasher movie. And we actually got, I feel like I say this a lot about films, but like it was too well made in that sense. Like it really focused on this trauma that he was dealing with a lot more than I was anticipating.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And the twist at the end, I mean, you kind of
look, you see it coming a mile away, but as soon as you figure it out, you're like, actually, you know what? That's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Yeah.
But yes, no, you see it a mile away. In fact, I think we were maybe 20 minutes in and I called it. And then, you know, whenever they finally reveal it, I was like, yeah, it wasn't that hard to figure out.
Yeah, I think when it like actually, by the way, my wife hated this movie, which I just thought was hilarious because I don't know how I convinced her to watch it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm shocked that she even checked it out.
I think there was at least 2 or 3 times where she goes, "What the fuck is happening?" And then I would explain it to her, like, the animatronics are building a fort. What don't you understand about it? But when the twist happened, she was like, "Yeah, no shit." I was like, "Okay, come on, give him a little bit of credit here." Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. I'll say this, man. You know, I'm a horror head, Cycling and I, and then you're like an honorary member of the Horror Hound Club here on the podcast.
I'm like a horror head adjacent.
Yeah. Cycling did not like this movie much at all, but having said that, if there's a sequel and they promise a few more kills, I will be right there. When it comes.
100%.
And I just love that it came to Peacock day and date, that it was in theaters, so I didn't have to, because I was interested in it, but I definitely would not have gone to a movie theater to see it.
Agreed.
Okay, speaking of slashers, I saw a movie, speaking of Amazon Prime as well, original, called Totally Killer.
Ooh.
Have you heard or seen anything about this?
No, I haven't.
All right, so the premise is it is kind of like Back to the Future meets Scream. So Julie Bowen of Modern Family plays
Back to the
a
Future meets Scream. Hold on, I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
yeah, it's pretty cool concept, right down my alley.
Okay.
So Julie Bowen, who is Claire in Modern Family, she plays similar to Laurie Strode in Halloween, a survivor of a serial killer who on Halloween night, I believe it's 30 years ago, killed three of her friends at a Halloween party, and she's the survivor. And she's very protective of her daughter every Halloween because she's afraid that this killer, who is still on the loose, was never caught, is going to
Oh.
seek revenge on her or her family. And
But
Halloween,
he'll only seek revenge on Halloween.
correct. That's what she's fearful of.
Gotcha.
Uh, and
Not the
again,
other 364 days of the year.
right. No, he's busy then. He works.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So without spoiling anything, the plot device or the premise is um, Julie Bowen's daughter gets this guy shows back up Halloween night now, 30 something years later. Her daughter is about 17 years old, and he attacks her daughter and chases her into a abandoned amusement park, wherein you have to kind of let your movie disbelief or movie license take over here for the fun of it. He and her both get just her gets transported back to 1990 when Julie Bowen's character is in high school and these murders.
Ooh.
So her daughter is tasked with two things. First off, meeting her mother without telling her who she is, similar to George McFly and Marty McFly in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And realizing that maybe the high school version of her mom is not someone she would have liked. Um, and then also, she feels like to save her mom in the modern timeline, she has to solve this murder and figure out who the killer is. And she realizes pretty quickly that he is kind of one step ahead of her the whole movie, and a lot of these murders are still happening. So it's a pretty cool idea for a movie, and it's definitely like a horror comedy, but I would say it's like 65% horror slasher, the other 35% comedy. But I had a fucking blast with this thing.
Nice.
So
like
much
it.
so that I believe I nominated it for Best Horror Movie of the Year. Yes, I did, for the Broskers. So I highly recommend it because I don't think it's so scary that like the wife will, if you watch it with Brooke Banner, that she'll be like, okay, this is gross, let's turn it off.
Oh no, she loves that shit. She's weird.
Okay, good. Then you guys will get a kick out of it. It's called Totally Killer on Amazon.
Totally killer. All right.
Yeah. All right, what else you got?
All right. Next thing. Been watching Loki, season 2. We'll do at the time of this recording, we got one episode left, I believe. So we'll do a chest day on Loki season 2. I'll just say this: I'm enjoying it. I am a little confused, but this is kind of a situation where I know good acting when I see it,
Right.
and I think this is good writing, but it's a little too complicated for my peon brain.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Very well acted, looks great, and I just love the character of Loki.
Yeah.
However, I'm either too stupid to understand it, or it's like a Tenet situation where the high concept of it is just so over my head that even if you explained it to me in the most articulate way possible, I would still be so fucking confused.
Now, all that will be forgiven. I texted you my theory the other day on what I think will happen. I'm not going to say it here because I don't want to give any spoilers for Loki. But if what I think is going to happen happens, all will be forgiven, no matter how over my head it is, because it'll be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I have heard some. Again, it could be completely unfounded and just internet clickbait, but some of the rumors that I've heard about what happens would be pretty badass. Yeah. And again, the season might end, and I still might have really no idea what's going on, but I'll do my best to watch the YouTube stuff and understand it. I think my big issue and where I'm like worried is you and I are like my Marvel diehards. We pretty much watch everything that comes out in the MCU, and I am still very, very confused with the multiverse saga. But in the Infinity Saga, and I know it's not apples to apples, but at this point, which is essentially the second phase of it, like we had a very clear idea of where things were going, and I don't have that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off by saying the multiverse concept I think is a lot harder than the Infinity Saga. The idea and how to wrap your head around the multiverse is just super difficult to do. I
Right.
think some entities have done it really well, and I think some entities have not. Into the Spider Verse, I think figured it out. I don't think the MCU necessarily has. I think this is the first time the MCU or Marvel Studios is facing some adversity, and they're realizing, oh wait, we can't just make like our name is only going so far. We actually have to start to make good shit again.
Yeah.
Um, and I think some of the actors aren't buying in how a lot of the ones early on did into these characters.
It's just tough because they're a victim of, after the Infinity Saga, what they think and probably what fans were clamoring for is like more, bigger, more. And that's not a realistic model to continue to grow. Like you can't constantly be getting bigger and more complex. And they've obviously spread themselves so thin with so many characters that at this point it's like when are we going to fucking see Moon Knight again? Like, I mean, will we ever? I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad about that, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just like they're spread so thin right now, and their output in terms of content is so vast that it just seems really hard for them to keep up with things. And I don't envy Kevin Feige, the role that he has wrangling all this together.
No, I'm actually impressed that he hasn't jumped ship to Star Wars yet.
Yeah,
I know that there's a lot of rumors and talks about it, but if I were him, I would already be off this sinking ship.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he sticks around past Secret Wars, which might be best for both parties.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Either way, he's given us the greatest thing of all time in the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
All right, I only have two more, and one I won't talk about too long. But I watched a YouTube documentary called "The Astros' Edge: Triumph and Scandal in Major League Baseball" about the Houston Astros sign stealing scheme of 2021 when they went on to win the World Series and were caught by Major League Baseball for using video equipment and a trash can in their dugout to steal opposing teams' signs and then signal into their players when off-speed pitches were coming. Now, Brian, I know you're very familiar with this story. Were you aware of this documentary? And I guess before I even speak about it, what are your thoughts on this scandal as a baseball fan and someone whose team is in the Angels in the same division as the Astros?
Yeah, so I think I talked to you off pod about the documentary, so I am aware of it. As far as what the whole scandal is, like sign stealing is nothing new.
Correct.
That is a part of baseball. That is a part of sports. I mean, hell, Michigan's dealing with it in college football right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sign stealing is a thing. I get that. My issue is the fallout of this. There was minimal punishment for all parties involved. It was just a slap on the hand. Hey, don't do that. You can't do that.
Well, all the players implicated got immunity if they admitted to it, which makes no sense.
Right.
What good does an admission do if it's not punitive at all?
Exactly. So it's just baseball has a lot of things wrong with it, unfortunately, and their disciplinary action in this particular instance was absolutely horrible. How they responded to this, but yet we're worried about steroids that actually brought fans into the game. In the 80s, 90s, early aughts. But we had to crack down on that because who likes fun?
Right. Well, and to your point, sign stealing has always and will always be a part of baseball from the players. When you start using technology that other teams don't know you have and aren't privy to use in the same way, I think it violates not only the ethics of the game, but it goes beyond gamesmanship, and it is just inherently cheating. If your runner on second base can pick up the catcher's signs and relay them to the batter, that is well within your rules. If you have secret cameras in center field that the other team doesn't know you have, that are zoomed in to pick up signals from the catcher, and then you relay them to someone in your dugout to make a signal to the batter when a curveball is coming, that is wrong, and it gives you a massive advantage. And all the fans out there that say, well, you still have to hit the pitch. Yes, you do. But if we're dealing with major leaguers at that level, if you tell them what pitch is coming, they will hit it. Like, that's not even debatable. So the interesting thing about this documentary, again, they obviously don't get like a lot of the people to talk who you actually want to hear from. Like Beltran, who supposedly was the ringleader, Carlos Beltran, is not in it. Jose Altuve is not interviewed for good reason. Like it would probably not make them look good. The one guy that they do have in it is Jeff Luhnow, who was the Astros GM at the time. And after the scandal came out, he was fired by Jim Crane, the Astros manager, and he is effectively, I don't think he's like officially banned from Major League Baseball, but he's basically blackballed. Like no team will hire him, and he's now the general. That's kind of funny. Reminded me of Eastbound and Down. He's now the general manager of a Mexican League soccer team.
A soccer team,
right? Which I was like, what? It's like an Eastbound and Down when Kenny Powers has to go pitch in the Mexican League.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that's so frustrating to me now is like we have all the evidence, and he is still very much in denial. I don't think so much that it happened, but that it gave his team any advantage. To which I would just say, then why would you do it? Like, why would you waste time and resources on something that is not helping you? That just doesn't make any sense. One last thing I want to say about this banner. It's on YouTube if you want to watch it for free. It's pretty good. It's like an hour, 15 minutes. So you can probably watch it in like 2 lunch breaks. But there is an Astros fan, again, someone who was a fan of the team that did this research, which I thought was interesting. And he developed, excuse me, an algorithm where he went back and took the audio, like just ripped straight audio off of all the 81 Astros home games. And you can actually hear at many of the games, with the exception when like the crowd gets really loud, the trash can bangs. And I believe he charted 1,700 and change trash can bangs throughout the season at home. And I can't remember the exact number, and I don't want to misquote it, but the take percentage on balls in those at bats and the batting average of the Astros is I think case in point that this had an impact on their season. So him going through and doing that legwork was probably the most interesting part of the documentary for me.
Yeah, that's insane. And good on him for being an Astros fan and basically calling your team out.
Yeah, I think he basically said, and I feel like if you and I had the acumen to actually do this, we would feel the same way. But he said, my team won a championship, and I know that it's forever going to be tainted. So I almost had to know for myself. You know, I had to go back through and see, like, was this really as bad as people say? It wasn't necessarily about him proving their innocence, but more so for his own conscience. Like, how can I look back at this team?
Yeah.
And he said, unfortunately, I think, yes, in terms of times that this was done at home, it was pretty pervasive.
Yeah, absolutely wild.
All right, what else you got?
Only other thing I got is kind of been having a palate cleanser. You know, everybody has that one where while you're doing something else, or right before bed you watch. Going back and watching that '70s show. Okay. This is
What's
my
this
absolute
on right now, by the way? What's it?
Peacock.
Okay, sweet.
This has, I mean, it's an all-time classic show for me. This is probably my favorite show ever. It never gets old. The jokes are still funny. It's going to be relevant for generations to come and generations previous to us. It's just so fucking good.
Such lovable characters. I got to ask, you turned me onto the show. I have very fond memories of watching this with you in college when we were roommates. The Danny Masterson thing, does that taint this at all for you? Or is it one of those deals where we talk about separating artist from art and, there's still so many good memories associated with this that can't really ruin it?
I think because we have so much content of him as Stephen Hyde, I can see him as Stephen Hyde and not as Danny Masterson. There are times where, he's maybe hugging one of the female actors or something, and I'm just like, it feels a little weird just knowing the time frame of when this was being filmed and when all of that went down. It was basically the same time, and so just makes you feel a little icky, but you still love the character Stephen Hyde. He's still funny. He's still endearing, loyal friend. But that's only because we have 8 seasons of him being that character.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to go back and rewatch at some point because it has been a few years.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Nope. What's your last thing?
All right, last thing I got. I just watched this on Netflix. I think 2 nights ago. Thurman recommended it to me. Netflix original. It's called Pain Hustlers with Chris Evans and Emily Blunt. This is kind of done like Wolf of Wall Street, and it is basically chronicling a pharmaceutical company's rise at the beginning of the opioid crisis, and sort of how all their pharmaceutical reps basically sold their souls to the devil in terms of pushing doctors to prescribe their pain medication to patients so that they could get rich at exorbitant levels. And then it, of course, ends when the Justice Department catches on to them being behind so many deaths and overdoses and people being addicted to these medications that the other shoe drops, and there is a whistleblower within the company. I won't tell you who it is, who works with the FBI and sort of has like a come to Jesus moment where their conscience gets the best of them. So interesting movie. There's got to be like a subgenre to these, like, because like the Beanie Bubble earlier this year about the Beanie Baby boom was similar to this, and obviously Wolf of Wall Street is the same, where these companies just kind of explode and none of the people are ready for the wealth and fame that hits them so quickly, and their lives kind of, even though they have more money than they've ever known what to do with, their lives sort of become shit because of it. I don't know if there's like a name for that subgenre.
Yeah, I don't know what to call that. There's not really a shorthand.
Yeah. But you know the type of film.
Of course.
And I can't really say it's a paint by numbers because the vast majority of them are based on true stories.
Right.
So this one, I've seen the show Dope Sick about the opioid crisis, which it is looked at from probably much more like the litigious angle, like the way that these people were prosecuted and investigated and where they tried to build a case to actually take them to court. This one is told like 95% from the pharmaceutical sales reps point of view, which is kind of another interesting angle to it. And it's just kind of sad, man, to see, like, as a country, how many people just only see the almighty dollar and they literally don't care, like, if lives are at stake, because, you know, there's money in it for them. And
yeah,
it's gross.
Anybody to get ahead.
Yeah. One thing that did bother me about this, I love Emily Blunt's performance. Chris Evans is doing like it's kind of like a Long Island accent.
Ooh,
and
gross.
It's gross. Yeah, I'm sure it was based on the character that he's actually playing, but I was just like, please stop. I love you, Chris Evans, and you're pretty good in this role, but that accent is so grating and hard to listen to.
Just trying too hard? Or was he like going in and out of it?
Kind of going in and out of it. The problem is when he would go into it, he would like dive into it very, very deep. Like and this is going to sound like a Boston accent, but he says the word hard at one point, like that his job is hard, and he goes, hard. I'm like, my God, dude.
Yeah,
That's the best take we have.
If you can't do that, it's kind of a Sophie Turner when she played Jean Grey situation. Like, if you can't do an American accent, let's just not do an American accent. Like, it's fine. Sure. You can still give a good performance and not do an accent.
Well, and it's interesting because Emily Blunt, obviously, who has a British accent, she plays an American in this, and her accent is flawless. Although, in Chris Evans' defense, she's probably had a lot more practice at doing an American accent on screen than he has with whatever this like Long Island northeastern. Although I think he's from Boston, so I don't know why he wouldn't be more natural with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Bruh!
All right, that bird brings us to the end of our show, the last segment, question and answer part called Do You Even Lift Bruh?
Bruh?
Do you even lift bruh? Today, we pick you back up with the question being, what are the bros' top 100 movies of all time? We've been counting down this list, starting with number 100 for probably about a year now. I'd have to look up the exact date.
Maybe even more.
The link to these lists is in the description of this podcast. Go ahead and click it. It's a Google Sheet with all 5 of the bros and our lists. We are currently around the mid-40s. Banner, we will each do one movie tonight. You last gave us your number 47 movie of all time. But I guess real quick, before we dive into that, we always have to introduce this list with a brief description of the way that we compiled these top 100 lists so that our fans have a little bit of a better idea. Because sometimes a top 100 list, it will be like the best made films or the best directed films. Our list here with these top 100 is a little bit different. So why don't you tell the people what exactly they're looking at here?
Well, this is my top 100 list. Okay. I would say 70% of these movies should never be on any top 100 list, but they mean something to me, whether it was a great theater experience or tied to a fond memory, or I don't know. It just makes me feel happy. So I love this movie. Um, no, by no means are these the best acted or directed or should even be considered the best out there. But these are my top 100, which all of us, if you go and look at that list, where we're at so far, very vastly different. Especially from, even your number 50 to my number 50. Vastly different movies. It's insane.
Yeah. It's really just a fun exercise in like movies and when they had an impact on your life and what you remember about them. And yes, some of these are also really, really great movies and, critically acclaimed films. But for the most part, these are the movies that we love the most, and we don't need any other defense of them based on the fact that we like them. So I encourage you to put your own list together at home.
It's hard to do.
It really is. Speaking of your list, Banner, your number 47 movie is a very Brian Banner film, and that is National Treasure. So what is one ahead of that on your list at number 46?
Well, you guys know I'm a Disney head. You guys know I love going to the theme parks, and I'm a sucker for movies based on or around an attraction. This one, The Jungle Cruise.
This is it called The Jungle Cruise or just
it's called
Jungle Cruise?
I believe it's called The Jungle Cruise. I don't know. But obviously we've got The Rock in it, Emily Blunt as well, right?
Yeah.
It's just a fun adventure. It is similar to the Pirates of the Caribbean movies where they took an attraction and said, we're going to make a story that pays homage to this. They didn't try and make the ride the story itself, right? They took elements from it and said, okay, we're going to make a story, but we can sprinkle these in. And I loved it. I thought it had good humor, some really creative choreography. There were enough nods to the ride where it wasn't overpowering, but it was enough to go, oh yeah, I know that. And that's, that's funny. Okay. I recognize that. But if you would have never rode the ride, you still are left with a good movie.
Jesse Plemons is in this, who I love. And
Jesse Plemons is our villain. Yeah.
I gotta say, if this was going to be in anyone's top 100 list, I would have predicted you. I did not know that you like this movie so much. I just don't remember you being as big a fan of it when it came out.
This was one of those ones.
This one that as you've kind of gone back and it's sat on your palate, you've enjoyed it more.
Yeah. I did a rewatch of it not too long ago, and that helped. But this was one of those ones where you just start putting it up against other movies, and there's just something about it. You're like, I just like that movie better. I shouldn't, but I do. And I'm as shocked as you are. I'm as shocked as you are.
Jungle Cruise. I got to go check this out. I'm sure it's still on Disney Plus.
I'm sure. If it's not, then they're doing something very wrong.
Was this one of the during COVID where they had to bang it from theaters, but you had to buy it on Disney Plus or pay to rent it?
I think it was.
Okay, because I remember we did that with. I believe the only one we actually did it with was Black Widow. I can't remember if we did it with another one.
Hopefully, you didn't do it with Mulan.
We did not.
Phew, dodged the bullet there.
Cycly and you, I think, paid to watch Mulan and told us don't do it.
I did not because Cycly told me not to.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe I just listened to him then. Yeah. He is our lawyer, so we take his advice. Yeah. All right. My number 46, and I guess this is fitting into a theme that I have going on here, is Rush Hour from the late 90s. And my number 47 was Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. So the late 90s comedies have now made their presence prominently felt on my list. I also have Rush Hour 2 on my list at number 84, so I thought it was only appropriate that the original Rush Hour was even higher because this one had kind of a profound impact on me. This got me really into the action comedies that we started to get a lot of in the early 2000s, but I do think this is the best one of them. And Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, both in their primes, Chris Tucker comedically, Jackie Chan, physically as a martial artist. should not.
He's got some comedy chops on him too, though.
Oh,
don't sleep
absolutely.
on Jackie Chan.
No, you're very true. Like the Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights movies, which is a whole other Pro Force Squad debate.
We don't need to get into that again.
Yeah, he's great in those. I just think he's a really like willing participant to just act ridiculous with someone else, and comedians sort of thrive on that. And in this movie, him and Chris Tucker, like on paper, I think the analogy I always use, even though I don't actually like this food, but a lot of people do, it's like, you know that like cheddar popcorn you get and the caramel popcorn that you can buy together?
Yeah.
That should be gross, right? But somehow it works together and people really enjoy it. And that's sort of how Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker are on screen.
Yeah, I mean, this set the bar, right?
Yeah, like if you made an action comedy, like I think of like I Spy and what's the De Niro one that he did with there's a bunch of them that came out. We could probably do a list of like 20. God damn it. Blue Streak.
Blue Streak.
Even like
Martin
Bad
Lawrence.
Boys to a degree. Yeah. A lot of these came out and we're sort of trying to replicate that Rush Hour aesthetic where it was like pretty good, interesting case that they're solving. A nice villain who's a little bit over the top, but not like Hans Gruber-esque in his lack of morality. And then
not menacing.
Yeah, exactly. But he's enough of a threat to definitely keep you interested. And then just two leads who are chewing up the scenery together and some fun action set pieces.
Got some great chemistry.
Yeah, even though I think the second one is funnier, I think Rush Hour is a better movie, all in all. And I absolutely love this film. And it's probably every 2 or 3 years watch for me.
Nice.
Yeah. First Rush Hour. Great. All right, Brian, before we let the people go, any closing thoughts for episode 212?
Let's just continue to pull over for emergency vehicles. I know it was about a month ago on our last episode. I was really disappointed. Not gonna lie, you guys stepped it up. Saw everybody pull over for a fire truck the other day. Very happy. Very happy.
That's good. So
keep it up. Yeah, I'm just glad that, you guys listened. I appreciate that.
I'm sure the people that listen to this podcast were preaching to the choir. They're probably the ones that already pull over. But we're sorry to bend your ear. It's just frustrating. We have to give this message to someone.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If one person doesn't pull over, everybody behind you won't pull over either. Right? So if you see it coming, pull over, and people are naturally going to do that. Be a leader, not a follower.
Set the example. That's what's really cool. I will just say, make a smart decision when you're getting your hair cut. No, it's not going to be permanent, but especially with the holidays coming up, you're going to have to be in some pictures.
Yep.
You're going to have to be around your family.
A fucking idiot.
Right. You're going to have to be around your family, which maybe you don't give a shit what you look like around them, and that's fair. But if you're around like your spouse or your significant other's family, you don't want to look like a dipshit who went in there and, got too creative and tried to make himself look like a European soccer player. So be smart in there, and let's just avoid any sort of dye in general, right? I think that's a safe thing.
Don't let them talk you into any kind of product.
No, you're wasting money on that stuff. And if you are someone out there who cuts hair for a living, you're like, that's how I make my commission. Like, I know, but let's rely more on your skills as an actual barber, because I'm sure those are top notch.
Or just get a new profession.
Or that, I suppose. Why'd you quit your job? Well, the movie podcast I sometimes listen to said I should just hang it up.
Yeah.
But before you do that, come cut our hair for free like once or twice.
Yeah, that's fine. Be the official Bro Force Squad hair cuttery.
Ooh, that's what we need. We need to go back to sponsors like the Sony VHS cassette rewinder
cassette.
So I don't believe there was ever a machine whose job was just to rewind VHSs.
Wild.
All right, for the mad scientist Brian Banner, I'm the mayor Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Pumped to be back with you. Please follow us on X or Twitter at Bro Force Squad. Same handle on Instagram. If you go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, pretty much anywhere that you find podcasts, you will find us if you type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words. And everything that we've ever posted, links to everything, and our squad blog are on our website at broforcesquad.com. Till next time, I'm going to try and not have everything that I watch spoiled for me.
I got nothing.
Yeah, got nothing. I'm going to fuck it all up.